everyone.
Awesome. Hey, Chris.
Hi, Ian. It's really good to see you
Yeah,
again.
you too. It's been a little more frequent, but infrequent in the same. Anyways, yeah, it's hard to explain. I'm just going to keep that one
It
down.
is hard to explain, and we just won't go there. That's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
But yes, it still feels like these 2 weeks come around really, really quickly.
Holy crap! It's every time I wake up, I seem to get the text that says, "Oh, so what's the topic this week?" And then I avoid it for a day, and then I see if something pops up. And this week, something popped up.
It did. I was so glad it came through for you. So the
So
topic being,
I asked
yeah,
you. Oh, I didn't ask you. Well, it's a question. I said, "What keeps you up?"
but you did kinda.
What keeps you up at night? I just answered that. Like, that's the topic. But then you were like, "Is that a question for me? Is that?"
Well, I have to share because it happened to
I
come
kind of wanted
through
you just to start with that, anyways.
at my time at 9:45. And technically I was in bed, but I wasn't asleep yet. And I was like, oh, this is hilarious.
Is anything keeping you up at
Because
night?
something was keeping me up at night.
Not having a topic for this week's conversation?
And I was like, oh, that's just so timely. It just made me laugh for the evening. So yes, I I think it's a really good question because I know for me, I will tend to I've almost normalized staying awake or having trouble getting to sleep. So my brain is running at 100 miles an hour. It's checking off everything that I've done for the day. And is that door locked? And did I remember to latch that screen door? And has that light been turned off? And did I remember to turn the fairy lights off in this room? Because no one would be able to tell because the curtain's closed. So like, seriously, this is what goes on in my brain. And so it can take me a good 20 minutes, half an hour before I'm really ready to nod off. Now that's on a good night.
And those are logistical things, right? Like those are things, if you wanted, you could get up and check all the things. You could check all the boxes.
Yeah, but it feels much more normal to me to run it through my brain and try and remember what my steps were, and if I can remember that I actually did turn that thing off or make sure that that latch was latched or whatever. That is aside from the fact that there is another functioning adult in the house who also checks these things on a practical level before he comes to bed.
That's hilarious. So I'm curious now because my brain isn't spinning on those things per se, but it does spin on other things. And for me, it tends to be on kind of like a performance anxiety level. And it really doesn't matter what the task is. And I've got a couple examples from this past week, but it could be something I'm really looking forward to as well. Like, I could have a golf tournament the next day and I'm like super excited about it. And I can't stop thinking about, being on that first tee and how well I could do. And like, I'm
So all
constantly,
that forward thinking thing.
yeah,
That's
it's
interesting.
always about my performance somehow in the future. It could be planning a deck. It could be the work that I've done all these steps today, but I still have these other steps to do. My brain seems to always be moving in that direction forward. And something that I've noticed is that I tend to focus on the things that I'm most worried about, like making a mistake or like the what ifs.
Right, rather than focusing on the excitement or the fun of the golfing or whatever.
Right. But I'll use this week's examples because they're pretty recent and active in my brain. So I've returned to my CrossFit gym. I told you this the other day, and I was going through the process of being kind of like re-coached up to be able to coach classes. And I was preparing for my evaluation session, and I don't know how much sleep I got the night before. like I did as much preparation as I could the night before, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm in a good place. I'll go to bed. But I ended up struggling to fall asleep and then waking up thinking about it. And then now I'm not only spend all that time worrying the night before, I actually woke up worrying, and then I'm continuing to feel bad throughout my day because I haven't slept well.
And you're tired on top of that because you haven't slept well.
Correct. And then I go into that, let's say, evaluation, and everything that I've planned for completely goes out the window because it's not a full class, it's one person. So my plan is gone. And I have to rely on my ability to check in and to connect with people like I do in my coaching work, my life coaching work. To know what I need to do or what I should say. And it's only when I settle in that I actually, do well, basically, from my perspective, right?
Yeah, well, because you fall into your genius, is the way I would describe it. So you fall into the natural genius of you rather than the preparation that just all the negative side of it beforehand. But yes, falling into your natural genius.
I like that. Thank you. I might let that sink in a second. But I think the reason I put so much effort in my brain as to trying to prepare and get ready is to avoid feeling failure or being judged in some way, which is like just a reflection of my experiences as a kid, where it's like over preparing will get you to a certain place and then you'll be okay. Like you'll have all your bases covered. But when you get there, you realize that you've got more tools at your disposal and you're not lost and you have the ability to overcome stuff and to do things. But at night, I don't seem to have that capacity to have that forethought that this is all going to work out and it's all going to be okay.
And that's because you've got other parts of you that are less noisy. So during the day, you have other things that are distracting you, even though that same voice is going on during the day before, let alone the evening, but you're doing all that prep and making sure and just making sure. It's a lot of making sure things are okay. And then it gets louder at night because there's less distraction. So your physical body isn't doing anything, so it's not distracting you. So that's why all of that becomes a lot louder. But in actual fact, it's going on at the same volume during the day as well. We just notice it more at night.
I think I still notice it during the day too. But you're right, there are other things to distract me from it. So what I was thinking about as I was getting ready as I was over preparing for today, I was thinking about how I might want to incorporate a practice to quiet my mind at night.
Yes.
Because what's the point? And like I just told you, and the one example I gave you, it all worked out. I mean, yes, there's things that I can improve upon. That's with anybody and anything. But I had another experience coaching my first regular class, and it was six people in it, I think, or whatever. And all of my plans went out the window for that one too, because no one could do the lift that they were supposed to do that day because of injuries or restrictions or whatever. So I had to modify again.
You had to change it in the moment again.
Exactly. So if I'm going to spend all this time worrying about the thing that's never going to happen because you can't know what's going to happen, why would I feel bad all night, which then reflects in how I sleep, and then I feel bad, and then I feel bad during the day because I didn't sleep. So that's a lot of worry for a thing that never happened.
Yeah, it's a lot of input of energy.
And the thing that I couldn't plan for. So how can I settle my brain down before I go to bed so that it allows me to sleep, allows me to be okay and trust that it's going to work out, have a good sleep, and then show up and perform, whatever that thing is.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I was thinking was that there's a practice that I've done for myself in other scenarios, but I've never tried it at night like this. So I call it separating fact from story. So it's basically trying to remove the emotion from the thing that happened. Right? So it's all about facts, not about the emotion. So what do I know about myself? Okay, yes, when I put in a situation, yes, I usually perform pretty well, regardless of what's thrown at me, curveball or not. Great. Relying on like past experience of things that have gone well for me, why they want me there, why, like the interactions that I've had, even the good feeling thoughts that I've had from those events and experiences, so that I'm reaffirming what normally happens and not the odd time that things don't really
Perceived, yeah, or the perceived worry about what might happen, because I suspect those concerns have probably never happened to you.
well,
All
no,
those things you worry about have never happened.
no, it's almost like a catastrophe. I don't know if this is a word or not, but catastrophization, because catastrophication of what may happen, right? Like it's all a catastrophe. It's almost never that.
Yep.
It's almost always something way better than that version that went on in your head. Walking up to the girl at the bar and her saying no. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Okay, whew, I didn't die. That's great.
Yet we would consider ourselves completely just melting into the floor and never being able to get up again. Like, exactly.
So, and the reason I thought that this would be an ideal thing for me to try on, at least over these next few nights, to see if I can settle myself, is because if I can raise my vibration and feel more aligned when I go to bed, my sleep should be better, my rest should be better, and then my following day should be better as well, because I haven't spent hours of energy and thought on the thing that isn't going to happen and probably was never going to happen.
Yes. Yes. I like that approach. I find for me, it's funny, I was thinking about, well, what are the strategies that I use? Because as I said, I've normalized the brain running at 100 miles an hour. So that's kind of okay. After about 20 minutes, it settles down. I end up going to sleep. Great. We're good to go. But then there's the odd times that that's not in place. And I don't always know what it is. It's not that I've got something coming up tomorrow that's messing with me or that I'm worried about. I don't have a lot of that goes on. I tend to, I've already resolved all of that before I get to bed. I'm like, well, I've done what I've done. That's fine. I can leave it alone. But I'm still doing this backwards in time. So if I've been, for me, it's more if I get triggered by something. So it might be, I've just watched a show and it's got the 8-year-old that dies or something. And then I get triggered because I remember when Angel was 8 and blah, blah, blah. And it just starts, and did I do everything right when she was 8? And maybe I could have been a better mum. And, it just starts. My brain's just ridiculous. So if I get triggered like that and I'm still going backwards in time and reassessing everything, my couple of strategies is to do a meditation. And it actually serves the same purpose that you just suggested. What it does is it stops me focusing on where my thinking is at the moment, in that moment. So my thinking's about, should I have done it better? This could have been, maybe, what if, all of those things. And suddenly I have to hear this guided meditation and, I've got to breathe now. Okay, then I'll just breathe. I've got to visualize this thing now. Okay, then I'll do that. And suddenly I'm asleep. I never get to the end of the meditation, ever. Because I've changed what my brain's doing. Mm. I give it something else to do. So that's something that I use to achieve exactly what you suggested, that separation of, it's the breaking the pattern. It's breaking the thought pattern that's been activated. And sometimes it will be like you, where it's worrying about tomorrow. Sometimes it'll be like me, where it's maybe I should have done more.
Mhm.
And either version, breaking the pattern, breaking the thought pattern is important.
I like yours in theory. When my mind is too active, meditation is, I find it really difficult. So it's like the train is going too fast and I can't slow it. So at least
Okay.
so I appreciate yours. Yours is great for me in the morning because it's slower. The thoughts aren't as wound up as they were. But at night, I think the reason why I think this would work for me is because I'm using the current situation and kind of detuning my beliefs about it, that things are not going to go well. It's like,
And breaking it down
oh,
into what's
what do I know
reality.
about me and how I react and why this is important to me and why I think I'm there, and how I can be of service and help people. And it has a different feeling once I've done that, and it alters the way that I see it. And I've talked myself off this ledge in other topics before, while driving. If something's unsettling, okay, well, I'm changing my intention for the day, and I won't look at it that way anymore. I'm gonna try to find the positives in this, and always trying to find a new angle that feels better. Because when I find something that feels better, I know that it's lining up with like my higher purpose, as opposed to um
Staying in the victim, or
yeah,
staying in the, oh, it's all too
beating myself
hard,
up
or
over something, which is the antithesis of being like in your power and moving in your purposeful direction. So yeah.
yeah, it's I also find that anxiety, so this is the other thing that other people might relate to, and this one's a little less tangible, is I can have anxiety kick in for no apparent reason. And for me, it's a bit of paranoia that actually kicks in. And so I'll do the backward looking. Really common pattern for me. I'm just covering off all the details. That's what I'm doing. I'm covering off all the details. Did I get all the details right? That's the overriding feature. And often I don't feel like I got all of the details right. In reality, no one would even know that I missed a detail, except I will have noticed that I missed a detail, whatever. But anxiety will come out of nowhere. And so this is the other thing I find a little more challenging. When you can't pinpoint what it is you're actually feeling anxious about, that makes it a bit harder. And I think that's why I find the meditation works when it's a bit more unknown.
Mm.
Um, um, because sometimes I just can't pull apart what it is that I'm thinking about. During the day, what I'll describe that as is I just go into a certain amount of mental overwhelm that I can't get any words out. I just can't find it. And that's when I know my anxiety is kind of taking over a little bit and having a bit too much of a say. But the same thing happens at night when I feel the anxiety, and it's it's a hard thing to describe how I feel it, but it just starts me almost going into a panic mode.
Mm.
And if I can't pinpoint what it is, that is where I find it a little more challenging.
Can I ask you if you notice anything about your breathing in that mode?
Oh, it's so shallow, it's ridiculous. That's why when I put the meditation on, it goes, oh, breathing. There's a thing.
That's one thing for me that often it's my indicator. I'll have like this very short, shallow chest breath. But and it's not that, because I noticed that a similar anxiety bubble up in me if I'm listening to too much news, or if I've had too many coffees. Like today I had there was a double espresso in my second coffee.
Okay.
So yeah, so I felt it for that kind of shallow breath, like not even understanding that I was feeling anxious, but I'm like, it's the coffee for sure. But noticing that the breath is shallow and starting with one big deep breath, just to go, oh, there is more room for this, like there is. And then I find that will allow me to then notice myself and to start checking in just with a breathing exercise, to start breathing through the belly, like really expanding. And I find that alleviates a lot of that kind of fearful sensation.
Yeah, I find that I don't notice the shallow breathing. I actually notice when I take a big sigh. And that's when I know I've been shallow breathing. Like I'm not actually aware of when I'm doing the shallow breathing. And then it's like, obviously my life mission is about more awareness. Who needs more awareness? That would be me. But I notice that I don't notice the shallow breathing. It is in the big sigh that I go, okay, what do you need to pay attention to, Chris? So that's something else that I don't always notice, that shallow breathing.
I'm sure people can relate to this. The sleepless nights, the shallow breathing, the anxious feelings and thoughts. Like
So the other element I hear about the non-sleeping is the waking up.
Yeah.
Now I tend to do this when I have an early morning call. So if I'm this is the time the worried about tomorrow kicks in for me, and this is how it plays out for me, is that I'm like, I have to make sure I'm awake on time. So if I've got an alarm set for 4:45, guaranteed I will wake up at 2:30, I will wake up at 3:15, I will wake up at 4 o'clock. And then finally my alarm will go off at 4:45, and then I'll feel like sleeping because I've been awake 3 times in the last 3 hours. So it's this like my system's preempting when I have to wake up early. That's out of my pattern. So it's almost like I set my system up to, or kind of set it up to fail sleeping so that I can be prepared. Like I'm constantly preparing. So yeah, this is another thing of the waking up. And I find that people also struggle with getting back to sleep at that 3 o'clock in the morning. So that can be a little more challenging, because I find I can put in strategies when I'm heading off to bed, that's fine. But the middle of the night one, the 3 o'clock in the morning one, that's a little bit harder. What do you do to help with that?
The thing is, I have been in the same pattern for the last 5 years. Avery will wake up. He will climb into our bed, or Julie will fling him into the center. We will fight for covers for an hour.
And I've seen how big Avery is. The flinging sounds very. I love it.
It's dangerous for my bits and pieces. Anyways, I eventually will switch beds. Sometimes I switch right away because I know it's coming. I heard him, whatever. Like it's my body's attuned to wake up anywhere from 2 to 4 o'clock to make the switch. I will switch. I will go to his bed and sleep in his bed. Most nights I'm fairly successful at going back to bed. But again, if my brain was active before I went to sleep, it's kind of still active when I make the transition. And now I'm awake. That I find harder to fall back to sleep.
Yeah, I get caught up in the frustration of wanting to be asleep, and now I'm awake and I'm just annoyed.
I mean, I have tried the balancing technique that you that you know of, not needing to know which emotion's keeping me kind of out of whack, but just go through the process and then try to fall back asleep. It's worked sometimes, not every time, but it's one way that I can do
Yeah, so
something that's not too active, but gets me.
yeah.
gets me back.
Well, yeah, I don't. And admittedly, I've had that same technique for 25 plus years now. And I don't always think of it at 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm so frustrated and annoyed. I just want to be asleep. And so I don't want to bother. So yeah, it can be hard when it's at that hour because there's just that level, that another layer of emotion that kind of stops the ability to go, okay, let me just calm down. So maybe if we can remember, this would be a good note for me, to just slow down the breathing, because no doubt the breathing will have gotten faster in that emotion of feeling frustrated, and being able to slow the breathing down to then get back off to sleep might be as simple as it is.
There's a couple of things that I've done generally before going to bed, not necessarily in the middle of the night, but one of them is either doing a body scan. So just trying to notice internally. Like, I don't know if you can focus enough attention on like inside your fingertips, like to feel kind of like a vibration or whatever, and then try to trace and track that vibration, almost like you're trying to track the molecules in your fingers all the way through. Try to feel your wrist, try to feel your forearm, try to feel your elbow, and trace your body. I've been fairly successful with that before going to bed. I don't know if I've had enough brain power and focus to be able to do that at 3 a.m.
I've done something similar. I was given this when I was a teenager because it was a really stressful time in my world, and an adult, gave me this little technique back then. So this is what, mid-80s. And it was similar to what you're talking about. It was just visualizing the idea of relaxing from the tips of my toes all the way through my body. And so that is something else that I've employed over the years. But yes, like you, I can do something like that going to bed, but at the 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't know that I have the fortitude to bother.
The other thing that I've tried to do, and this has worked, but again, not all the time, it's asking myself, is there anything that I can do right now? Like whatever the situation is there anything that I can do that is of value to me right now? No. I mean, if it's 5 o'clock and I only have 20 minutes left till my alarm goes off, okay, maybe I get up and do a meditation. But otherwise, there's nothing I can do about it. So
no, and
the only thing I
so,
can do is try to sleep.
Yeah, and so the other approach I now take, because I can't change that I've woken up 3 times before my alarm went off at 4:45. But what I can do is then the following day, because that pattern says to me that I'm worried about being on time, or I'm worried about being able to show up, whatever it is. I don't even know exactly what that pattern is, but whatever that pattern is, I'm likely to have dealt with that. I'm probably going to be dealing with that, or trying to face it, or having it as a challenge over the next couple of days, because it's been activated in my system. And so then I actually try to take a little bit more time to do whatever reassures me, because that behavior says to me that I'm not feeling reassured. I'm not trusting that I'll wake up. I'm not. And so I then do things that make it feel a little easier. So this week, as I've already shared, your message came through at 8:45 and I was still wide awake, and I'm like a 9 o'clock girl. I really am. I'm like in bed by 9. I should be asleep by 9:30. 9:45. Nope. So this week, we've been ramping up, been talking about this all year, the renovations, and there's been lots of activity going on, and it's kind of stalled. This week it's stalled and it's driving me nuts. I also got the call to say that the furniture is going to be another 2 weeks delayed. Oh my God, that feels like a lifetime. And so I was feeling like I don't have my house to live in. I don't have a nice space to be. It's like I'm not having any self-time, because any downtime, what am I doing? I'm just getting the little pieces done and nothing feels finished. I've got this business activity that I'm doing, creating social media stuff, and it's not done. It's just progressing, but it doesn't feel finished. So nothing's feeling finished. So I was getting really frustrated that I don't have any self-time. So that had been building up this week and had been affecting my sleep, my ability to go to sleep. That was the thing that was running through my head. Oh, what else could I have gotten done today to make tomorrow easier? And yesterday, I just rang Renz and went, okay, I just feel like I don't have any self-time. I don't need an answer right now. I just need to verbalize. I had like a 10-minute window before I was getting onto another call, and I just rang him and went, this is the problem. I'm just telling you the problem. No solutions.
Don't fix it.
Just a problem. And it made a world of difference because I verbalized it. I slept better last night. And so sometimes it's about recognizing that that pattern just needs to be like owned. Just need to start saying it out, getting it out during the day, and that'll help with the sleep moving forward. That's what I found this week. I'm still a work in progress. It's still a work in theory.
All work in progress. Trust me, if I'm coming up with this stuff, I'm sure it's not like I'm not alone in this. So hands up in the comments if you are staying up at night.
Hopefully this has helped us all get a better night's sleep.
And if nothing else, it's given me something to think about or try on when I am running thoughts through my ever spinning mind. So
yep, excellent. Yep, I've got a few notes to follow up to. Excellent. Thanks for this one, Ian.
Thank you.